May we have the national anthem. Funab anthem. Thank you very much. Please, may we be seated. Once again, we want to welcome you to the 87th Inaugural Lecture of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. Today, we are having with us on this side of the hall our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Olusola Babatunde Kehinde, ably represented by the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Development, Professor Kolawole Adebayo. Please let's give him a round of applause. You're welcome, sir. Seated next to him by his right-hand side, we have our Acting Registrar, Mrs. Oluwatoyin Daudu. You're welcome, ma. And to the other end, we have our University Librarian, Dr. Abayomi Owolabi. You're welcome, sir. We also have seated the Dean of the Inaugural Lecturer, College of Veterinary Medicine, Professor Olushola Ajayi. You're welcome, sir. And the HOD of the Inaugural Lecturer, please let's welcome Professor Matthew Ayokole Olude. You're welcome, sir. You know, today's lecture promises to explore the intricate realms of the African giant rat, popularly called Okete by those that hunt games, and its symbolic resonance with Nigeria's status as the giant of Africa. With the title, The Magnum Opus of Reproductive Anatomy, the African giant rat and the giant of Africa, please let's welcome our 87th Inaugural Lecturer, from the Department of Veterinary Anatomy in the College of Veterinary Medicine, Professor Adebayo Koyuum Akinloye. You're welcome, sir. And we also want to welcome specially the COLVET family, beautifully positioned. Please a round of applause for them. The royals present, we welcome you, sir. The Akiri of Ikiri, you're highly welcome. All the family and friends of the inaugural lecturer, you're highly welcome. And our members of procession, deans and directors, you're highly welcome. Please let's give them a round of applause. To this end, permit me to invite the Vice-Chancellor to come and give the opening remark about the inaugural lecture. Please a round of applause for the Vice-Chancellor.
Thank you. Let's be seated. The acting registrar, the university librarian, the Dean, College of Veterinary Medicine, deans of other colleges, student affairs, and postgraduate school. Thank you. Directors of academic centers, the inaugural lecturer, Professor Adebayo Koyuum Akinloye. The head Department of Veterinary Anatomy, heads of other departments, members of the University Senate, the Akiri of Ikiri land, His Royal Majesty Oba Olatunde Falabi Lambeluye III, and his chiefs. Kabiezi. Members of the Akinloye Balata family, members of the university community, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, great Funabites. I am delighted to welcome you to the 87th edition in the series of the inaugural lectures of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Nigeria, on behalf of our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Olusola Babatunde Kehinde. Today's inaugural lecturer, Professor Adebayo Koyuum Akinloye, hails from Ikire in Osun State. He was born to the Palata family of late Alhaji Abdulkarim Akinloye and Alhaja Mariam Akinloye more than 5 decades ago. Professor Akinloye had his early education at St. Joseph Primary School, Abebi, Ibadan, and secondary school at the renowned Ayedade Grammar School, Ikire, where he finished in 1983. He proceeded to the popular Oyo State College of Arts and Science, Oscars, Ile-Ife, for advanced level studies and obtained international baccalaureate certificate in physics, chemistry, and biology in 1985. He later gained admission to the Premier University, where he obtained a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree in 1991. He had an MSc Veterinary Anatomy in 2001 and also a PhD Veterinary Anatomy in 2009 from the same University of Ibadan. In 2018, he earned his fellowship of the College of Veterinary Surgeons of Nigeria in Diagnostic Imaging at the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria Study Center of the College of Veterinary Surgeons of Nigeria. Professor Akinloye started his academic career with short stints at the University of Ibadan, Department of Veterinary Anatomy in 2000. In 2001, he joined the University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, as a lecturer one to pioneer the Department of Veterinary Anatomy of the newly established College of Veterinary Medicine at that time. He rose through the ranks to become a professor of veterinary anatomy on October 1, 2015. He has served and is still serving the university in various positions, which include Dean, College of Veterinary Medicine of this university from 2017 to 2023. He was chairman, Committee of Deans and Directors of Faculties and Colleges of Veterinary Medicine in Nigeria between 2019 and 2023. He was chairman, Committee of Deans and Director of this university from 2022 to 2023. He was the Director of Veterinary Teaching Hospital of this university between 2015 and 2017. He was the acting head of Department of Veterinary Anatomy of this university from 2009 from 2003 to 2009. He was chairman of the Induction Planning Committee, College of Veterinary Medicine of this university in 2011. Of the College of Veterinary Medicine of this university between 2011 establishment under the auspices of the African Union. Professor Akinloye has also served on important committees of the university. He was a member of the admissions committee of this university he was a member of the timetable committee from 2003 to 2007. He was a member of the committee on the review of the procedure of processing academic transcripts in 2009. He represented the College of Veterinary Medicine on the promotion assessments panel of the College of Natural Sciences from 2013 to 2014. He is also a member of the Capital Development Committee of this university from 2017 to date. He has served as external examiner both at undergraduate and postgraduate studies of several universities, among which are the University of Ibadan, Ahmadu Bello University, University of Maiduguri, Usmanu Danfodio University, the University of Abuja, University of Ilorin, and the University of Benin. Professor Akinloye belongs to several professional associations, which include the Nigerian Veterinary Medical Association, the Anatomical Society of West Africa, International Federation of Association of Anatomists, World Association of Veterinary Anatomists. Professor Akinloye is widely traveled and has attended several local and international workshops, conferences, exhibitions, and training. He was a visiting researcher to the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, University of Pretoria, South Africa in 2009, and a visiting scholar to the North Sihuan Medical College, Nanchang City, China in 2016. He has supervised several undergraduate and postgraduate degrees and has published well over 70 articles in both local and foreign journals. Professor Akinloye was a member of the governing board of the Veterinary Council of Nigeria between 2017 and 2023. During this period, he served on several committees of the Council and led the Council's accreditation teams to several faculties and colleges of veterinary medicine in Nigeria. Professor Akinloye was also a member of the governing board of the Nigerian Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, ARCN, between 2019 and 2022, where he served creditably well. Professor Akinloye is happily married, and the marriage is blessed with lovely and successful children. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to invite Professor Adebayo Koyuum Akinloye of the Department of Veterinary Anatomy to present his inaugural lecture titled The Magnum Opus of Reproductive Anatomy, the African Giant Rat and the Giant of Africa. Thank you for your attention, and God bless you. Thank you.
The Vice-Chancellor, Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academics, Deputy Vice-Chancellor Development, the Acting Registrar, the Acting Bursar, the University Librarian, the Dean, College of Veterinary Medicine, Deans of other colleges, Student Affairs and the Postgraduate School, Directors of institutes, centers, and units, Head, Department of Veterinary Anatomy, heads of other departments, members of Senate, and other distinguished academics, all non-teaching staff, my lords, spiritual and temporal, members of my immediate family and extended family, gentlemen of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, great Foodabite, great Foodabite, greatest Foodabite. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, it is with a deep sense of gratitude to God and the utmost sense of humility that I stand before you this afternoon to present the 87th Inaugural Lecture of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, titled The Magnum Opus of Reproductive Anatomy, the African Giant Rat and the Giants of Africa. This is the second inaugural lecture from the College of Veterinary Medicine, and first from my department, the Department of Veterinary Anatomy. The first inaugural lecture from COLVET was presented by Professor Morenike Atinuke Dikpeolu in 2010, titled Healthy Meat for Wealth. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, in a funny twist of fate, my love and passion for anatomy began in my secondary school days at Ayedade Grammar School, Ikire, when our biology teacher, Mrs. Pila, an Indian lady, took us on Introduction to Biology in Form 3. She taught us the cell has been the unit of our life. Throughout the introductory class, I could not understand what a cell was. Was it an animal or a plant? In fact, what is a cell in Yoruba language? Among several other questions, I asked myself, what was a unit of life? At the end of the class, Mrs. Spiller asked if we all understood her lecture, and to my utmost surprise, everybody answered in the affirmative. Yes! See that everyone else understood the cell, I shamefully kept silent, pretending to have understood also. Thereafter, however, I decided to personally meet Mrs. Spiller to expose my ignorance and requested for full explanation of the cell. Long story cut short, I became one of the best biology students in my set. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, that encounter laid a firm foundation for my understanding of biology and marked the beginning of my love and passion for anatomy. Thus, during the preclinical phase of my study at the University of Ibadan, veterinary anatomy came to me naturally. At that time, Professor Tom Aire and the then Dr. B.O. Oke, now late Professor B.O. Oke, both renowned reproductive and endocrine anatomists, caught my attention with their artistic flair and enthusiasm and the ease with which they taught complex concepts in veterinary anatomy. Throughout my undergraduate years, I was Professor Oke's secret admirer until 1990 project in veterinary anatomy. Professor B. Oke painstakingly guided me into the field of reproductive and endocrine biology. And by year 2000, I was done with my master's within record time of 3 semesters and was ready for PhD. At that time, the Department of Veterinary Anatomy, University of Ibadan, was still busy characterizing the skin and the reproductive organs of African giant rat that was undergoing a primary domestication process. As at that time, almost all aspects of the male reproductive system had been characterized. And Dr. Olushola Oke, an MSc student and a lecturer in the department, was just starting studies on exfoliative cytology of the vagina of the African giant rat. She, in no time, however, left the department for UK, and 3 positions were defrosted in the department, thereby enabling Dr. now Professor James Olopade, Dr. Matthew Akman, and I to be offered temporary appointments. This appointment, together with works of the 2 Okes, left me with no option but to gravitate to the female reproductive system. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, Sir Albert Einstein, the great philosopher, once said, some men spend their lifetime in an attempt to comprehend the complexities of women, while others preoccupy themselves with somewhat simpler tasks, such as understanding the theory of relativity. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, true to the saying, by choice and design of destiny, I fell on the side of comprehending these complexities by spearheading characterization of the female reproductive system of one of the silent African giants within the shores of the giants of Africa, the African giant rat. My stint at the University of Ibadan was short. In 2001, as my appointment in the Department of Veterinary Anatomy was yet to be confirmed, Professor E.B. Oteshile, who was just establishing COLVET in UNAB, had discussion with my supervisor, late Professor Oke, and eventually, in 2002, Professor Oteshile got me employed as a pioneer staff to establish the Department of Veterinary Anatomy in UNAB. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, my academic journey to FUNAB has not only flamed the fire of deeper understanding of the structural architecture of reproductive system, but has also given me a panoramic view of all the segments of the female reproductive system as cytological, ultrastructural, histological, macroscopical, and histochemical levels. Unlike in humans, where estrous cycle is divided into 4 stages. 7 stages of estrous cycle exist in the African giant rat. Okay and okay, 1991. In each of these 7 stages, hormonal patterns, as well as all anatomical investigative features of each segment of the reproductive tract differ significantly. At the end of the studies, beautiful cyclic features perfectly controlled by hormonal fluctuation that led to reproductive system, that led to ovulation, were discovered. A panoramic view of all the segments of the female reproductive system led to my conclusion that truly the female reproductive system is a masterpiece, a magnum opus. The high point of the lecture also mirrors several societal factors that influence the multicultural and complex society of our dear country, Nigeria, the giant of Africa. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, in a beautiful heterogeneous audience as in an inaugural like this, one may be wondering, what is magnum opus? What is anatomy? Who is a reproductive and endocrine biologist? What is domestication? Why the African giant rat? And how does it, this inaugural lecture will involve around this? Kindly permit me to briefly shed more light on these keywords for better understanding of the lecture. Magnum opus is a Latin language of art that connotes the greatest piece of an artistic or musical work. The female reproductive system could no less be an analogy to describe the creativity of art of nature. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, my lecture today captures the artistic design, finite make, and fashion of the female reproductive system of the African giant rat through anatomic focal lens as a magnum opus. Anatomy is the oldest scientific discipline in medicine. Since Aristotle introduced the world over 2,500 years ago to describe the line of study that dealt with body structure, the world has come to be known in other senses as well. The term also means any detailed analysis of a subject matter. Anatomy, for the purpose of this lecture, will take its original meaning as articulated by Aristotle. That is, a study of body structure involving systemic method of studying the physical structure of living things. The reproductive and endocrine anatomists are basic medical scientists that specialize in characterization of reproductive organs and their associated accessory sex glands in relation to hormonal regulation in animals. They usually conduct research to establish biometric baseline data of different segments of the reproductive system. The veterinary anatomist plays a critical role in decoding the structural and functional components necessary for domestication and, by extension, production of animals. Nations such as the Netherlands, the United States, the United Kingdom have garnered incredible gains through animal production. The Netherlands recorded earnings of over 8 billion euros on milk alone in 2022, with beef, poultry, and pork grossing in tens of billions also. These advancements and profits come from better understanding of the reproductive components and reproducibility of traits that are favorable for profit. At the earliest end of this spectrum also is domestication. Domestication is the process of adapting a plant or an animal for human use. The African giant rat is known in Yoruba as Okete, in Igbo as Ewi, and in Hausa as Burugu. It is also called the African pouch because they have storage pouch inside of each cheek. The Yorubas have quite a number of proverbs that show the relevance of African giant rat in the society. They include, among others, Oketegba Gbebosi, Odegba Alate, Okawaleri. A stitch in time saves 9, or to be forewarned is to be forearmed. Tokete bá dàgbà tán, ọmọ ẹ̀mẹ̀ ló ń mú. When an African giant rat comes of age, it suckles the breast of its offspring. Iṣu tó bá ti bókété wọnú sà, ó ti dàjẹ́ mọ́nú òkété. Once African giant rat takes down to its tunnel, still retrievable. The pouch rats are widely spread and occur everywhere in sub-Saharan Africa. There are two main species of the genus Chrysetomis, Chrysetomis gambianus, Waterhouse, and Chrysetomis eminis. The African giant rat is kept with the aim of maximizing meat production from the species. Wild-caught animals settle within 2 months of capture and start to breed. In Britain, the African giant rat is increasingly becoming a popular exotic breed. The price of a single rat in UK is £70. That's roughly 700,000 naira. In the US, it is between $200 to $500. That is between 300,000 naira to 700. Being that African giant rats have keen sense of smell, the scientists of Belgium, Apopo Organization, and Sokoine University of Agriculture, Tanzania, trained about 250 African giant rats to use their well-developed olfactory sense to detect landmines. Unexploded ordnance and landmines are a menace in many African countries, and the scientists' idea was to get an alternative method of detecting landmines that works well in Africa. The trained pouch rats are called hero rats. Their excellent sense of smell is also being utilized as a viable alternative to microscopy for detection of presence of tuberculosis by sniffing sputum samples. Each rat can test hundreds of samples each day, allowing inexpensive testing. My research focus and contributions to knowledge. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, in the field of veterinary anatomy, reproductive and endocrine biology is my area of specialization. In the last 26 years, I've been involved in 5 major research areas in veterinary anatomy. 65% of my publications are on reproductive biology, 10% are on osteology, 10% also on phytotoxicology, 10% also on general anatomy. move the fetus to the outside at the end of the developmental period and produce the female sex hormones. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, kindly permit me to say. Thank you. Grossly, in a sexually matured African giant rat, Akinloye and Oke, 2009, showed that a single ovary had a reddish, irregular nodular structure at different stages of estrous cycle. In addition, it was revealed that both left and right ovaries recorded the highest weight in mid-proestrus, while their weight dropped sharply at late proestrus stroke early estrus, and were relatively maintained throughout the estrous cycle till late diestrus stroke early proestrus, when their weights rose sharply again at mid-proestrus. These findings suggested that perhaps the highest follicular growth was obtained at mid-proestrus, and probably ovulation takes place at late proestrus to early estrus in female African giant rat. This is the first time that specific stage of estrous cycle when ovulation took place in African giant rat was determined and could be employed in formulation of breeding strategies for African giant rats in captivity. Akinloye and Oke also gave concise descriptions of the histology and ultrastructures of the ovary at different stages of estrous cycle. At late proestrus, early estrus, several large gravian follicles with organized thicker internal and thicker external were observed. At mid-metestrus, secondary and tertiary follicles, as well as ovulatory follicles being transformed to corpus luteum were identified. The wall of the ovulatory follicles had collapsed and became enfolded. The cyclic histological features of the various segments of the reproductive tract observed at different stages of estrous cycle in the present study correlated with observations earlier reported in other animal species. Immunohistochemically, we observed that healthy and tertiary follicles dominated the ovary during proestrus and estrus. The thicker external of the tertiary follicles was immunopositive for smooth muscle actin, but immunonegative for desmin. A further notable feature of the ovary during metestrus was the presence of numerous atretic secondary and tertiary follicles. In the latter stage of atresia, the follicles were infiltrated by desmin and smooth muscle actin immunopositive cells. The results of the immunohistochemical study indicated that the perifollicular distribution of desmin and smooth muscle actin cells changes during follicular development, and atresia are similar to that of laboratory rodents. In our studies of the fine structures of the ovary during the estrous cycle in female African giant rat, it was revealed that ultrastructural features of the germinal epithelium and the medulla of the ovary were similar at different stages of the estrous cycle. During mid-proestrus, there was disorganization of the inner layer of the granulosa cells of secondary follicles to form the antrum. At late proestrus stroke early estrus and at mid-estrus, antrum formation had advanced, and there was evidence of reorganization of granulosa cells. The thicker internal shared similar ultrastructure with the granulosa cells. Cellular ultrastructure observed during mid-metestrus showed commencement of differentiation of corpus luteum. At mid-diestrus, the general ultrastructural architecture of the ovarian follicles showed disorganized cellular contents, and corpus luteum was recognized with conspicuous depolarization of basement membrane, originally separating granulosa cells from the thicker. This ultrastructural study documented stages of corpus luteum formation for the first time in the ovary of African giant rat and further lent credence to previous observation that ovulation occurred at late proestrus stroke early estrus. Grossly, in our studies of oviducts of the African giant rats, we observed variable degrees of irregular coils and closely intertwined contact of oviducts with the ovary, as well as lack of distinct visible border zone of the ampulla and isthmus. This made the oviducts of the female African giant rat dissimilar from other laboratory animals. Ultrastructurally, our findings showed that at mid-estrus, ciliated columnar epithelium resting on undulating basement membrane were displayed. Variably shaped mitochondria with prominent lamellar cristae, as well as numerous free ribosomes and polysomes were evenly distributed. Our findings showed that fine structure of the oviducts at all stages of estrous cycle were basically similar, though differences existed in spatial distribution and density of some cytoplasmic organelles. Characterization of the African giant rat uterus. Akinloye and Oke described gross morphometry of the uterus of the African giant rats and classified the uterus as being duplex, having two separate uterine horns and two cervices. Akinloye and Oke also in 2015 gave detailed description of the histological and ultrastructural features of African giant rat uterus. Our findings show that endometrial histology displayed glandular mucosa consisting of lamina epithelialis and lamina propria mucosae. Its epithelium varied between simple and pseudostratified columnar. The myometrium consisted of inner circular and outer longitudinal smooth muscles. Endometrial ultrastructures were variable during estrous cycle. At mid-estrus, hemidesmosomes anchored undulating basement membrane of the mucosal epithelium. Preponderant spherical mitochondria and Golgi apparatus were displayed. Mid-diestrus showed cell ultrastructure of uterine glands having apical accumulation of secretory vesicle. The findings of the study indicated that African giant rat endometrial ultrastructure varies during estrous cycle and glandular secretion is merocrine. In this study of immunochemical localization of progesterone and estrogen alpha receptor, Adebayo Koyuum and Oke investigated the immunolocalization of the progesterone and estrogen alpha receptors in the uterine horns of the African giant rat. Our findings show that the progesterone and estrogen alpha receptors were demonstrated in various cellular constituents of the endometrium, myometrium, and endothelial cells. The intensity of estrogen alpha receptor immunoreactivity in the luminal epithelium was high during proestrus, estrus, and diestrus. The intensity of progesterone and estrogen alpha receptor immunosteady in the myometrial smooth muscle cells was low during metistrus. Stromal cells in the perimetrium consistently express progesterone and estrogen alpha receptor immunoreactivity throughout the estrus cycle. The findings of our study indicated that in the African giant rat, the immunolocalization of the progesterone and the estrogen alpha receptors in the endometrial and myometrial regions of the uterine horns vary during estrus cycle. Characterization of the cervixes. Akinloye and Oke characterized the female African giant rat as having fused two cervixes separated by a mid-sagittal septum. Their thick musculatures projected caudally into the vagina as the potio vaginalis. Cervical histology showed epithelium interspersed with tall mucoid cells varied between stratified cuboidal and stratified columnar. Our findings during estrous cycle showed that slight variable cervical ultrastructures exist. At mid-estrous, the interface of the basal layer and lamina propria was folded with cytoplasmic extension of the basal cells in the underlying connective tissue. Akinloye and Oke also studied the histology and ultrastructures of the vagina at various stages of the estrous cycle in the female African giant rat. Histologically, our findings showed that the mucosal surface was generally lined by stratified squamous epithelium that displayed cyclic histological changes at different stages of estrous cycle. The lamina propria had a wide band of dense fibrous connective tissue with many blood vessels, while the tunica muscularis was made up of layers of smooth muscle coats. Ultrastructurally, we found that the cells of the stratum basale formed finger-like extension into the underlying lamina propria, and tips of the extension displayed hemidesmosomes. At mid-metaestrous, late metaestrous, stroke early diaestrous, and mid-diaestrous, the stratum spinosum had evidence of trapped migrating neutrophils and lymphocytes. The superficial layer displayed embedment of neutrophils at late metaestrous, stroke early estrous. The study produced the first comprehensive description of the vagina at the ultrastructural level during estrous cycle. Akinloye and Oke also used enzyme immunoassay system to measure the serum concentration of follicle-stimulating hormones, FSH, luteinizing hormones, LH, estrogen, progesterone, and prolactin, in order to determine the sex hormonal pattern. Our findings showed lack of LH surge at late proestrous stroke early estrous when the estrogen concentration was highest. Progesterone serum concentration was significantly high at late metaestrous stroke early diaestrous, but was at its basal level at late proestrous and early estrous. Prolactin serum concentration decreased significantly at late diaestrous stroke early proestrous and was at its peak during mid-estrous. Prolactin serum concentration displayed inverse relationship with the follicular stimulating hormone FSH, whereas it exhibited synergism with estrogen serum concentration. The hormonal pattern confirmed that ovulation occurred at late proestrous stroke early estrus, and that female African giant rat is a spontaneous ovulator, and its reproductive tract is not seasonally affected. Akinloye and Oke also characterized mammary glands of the female African giant rat for the first time as being thoraco-inguinal. Our findings showed that 8 mammary glands distributed along the ventrolateral aspects of thoracic and inguinal regions were present. The thoracic and the inguinal regions have 4 mammary glands each and are arranged in 2 pairs of cranial and caudal rows. The number, distribution, and arrangement of mammary glands in the giant rat are at variance with other species of laboratory animals. In the rat, Ratus ratus, for example, there are 12 mammary glands arranged in 2 rows of ventrolateral series along thoracic and inguinal regions, while there are 10 mammary glands in the mouse arranged in 6 thoracic and 4 abdominal inguinal. In the rabbit, there are 8 mammary glands arranged in 2 ventrolateral series along thoracic and abdominal inguinal regions. The African giant rat and the giant of Africa. Thank you. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, just as the African giant rat holds untold potentials of economic importance, our dear country, Nigeria, the giant of Africa, also holds numerous and advantageous potentials. As the most populous Black nation in the world, Nigeria has Africa's largest economy with a GDP of $477.38 billion in year 2023. Nigeria is a big oil producer with a population of more than 225 million people. Its economy is mostly driven by oil exports, rendering it sensitive to global oil price changes and economic volatility. Despite this, Nigeria has a booming services industry, a young population, and diversification possibilities. However, this giant faces challenges that hinder its progress and development. The country can learn from nations that successfully diversify their economies, investing in sectors such as agriculture, technology, and manufacturing to ensure long-term stability and growth. But of utmost interest, however, should be the agricultural development of Nigeria. The giant of Africa possesses significant agricultural potential, particularly in the realm of animal production. Transforming this potential into a thriving sector requires strategic lessons learned from successful models globally. Our animal production sector should prioritize diversifying its livestock, as relying on a single or certain types of animal production poses risk to the industry. For instance, Nigeria's over-reliance on the cattle value chain is partly responsible for the premium placed on cattle rustling, banditry, and ensuing security challenges. If Nigeria can pick animals such as the African giant rat from the rich fauna in our ecosystem for their livestock diversification portfolio, attention can be drawn away from these established animals, economic gains will be made, and African strengths can be exported to the world. For this to be possible, however, Nigeria must deploy technological integration, value chain development, capacity building and training, research and innovation, and most of all, systemic research-based education. Fostering this culture of research and innovation is critical for staying competitive in the global market. Therefore, Nigeria can learn from nations that prioritize research in animal domestication, animal genetics, nutrition, and disease control. Proper funding of research institutions, such as our great Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, that was recently adjudged the best in Africa and among the world's best schools of agriculture, will go a long way in making this a reality. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, By research on the female reproductive tracts of the African giant rat is indeed a mirror of the state of the nation and is worth musing over. In summary, kindly permit me to draw out the lessons that Magnum Opus of the African giant rat has with our nation, the giants of Africa. Signal molecules of quality control. The timing of estrous cycle, fertilization, gestation, parturition, and lactation are under the control of hormones. With these processes uniquely and intricately coordinated in the African giant rat, the various hormones, as described in my research, ensure a critical quality control system that is necessary for success in any organization or nation. The giants of Africa must take a lesson from hormones, as quality control system is a must for a smooth running of any organization. Giants of Africa must learn to upregulate, for instance, in salaries of citizens and in all areas where there are structural or socioeconomic deficiencies. The nation must also learn to peg down the issues of corruption and minimize the issue of the brain drain, popularly called japa. The cradle of fertilization and development. Fertilization occurs in the oviduct. This delicate process precedes implantation in the womb. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, a nation's educational system is the cradle of fertilization and development. Whilst they must be regulated and sustained by a control system, they determine the success of the formation of the organism. For the giant rat to fulfill her potential like the giant rat, she must provide the enabling environment for cross-fertilization of ideas and their development through the womb of quality research and innovation. This process must primarily be internal and may not be outsourced. Nigerian universities in particular need a boost through proper funding, better and increased emoluments of lecturers and staff, and the provision of enabling environments. It is in this richly and tenderly prepared womb, and in that, like that of the African giant rats, that they can learn and must nurture the future giants of Africa, and indeed the world. Milk of human kindness. Further, Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, we have seen the reproductive anatomy of the African giant rats as one suited to carry several pups and birth them successfully also. The beauty of this is that the African giant rat also has the ability to nurse them successfully. With 8 mammary glands positioned at lateral aspects of thoracic and inguinal regions, this rodent provides more than it typically gives birth to. This gives the African giant rat pup enough chances to survive and grow, hence making this rat a viable mini livestock for production. The giant of Africa must also position opportunities for the teeming population and circulate the milk of kindness through our abundant resources. When in a state of weakness, milk nurtures the pup to strength. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, the youths and even the aged are presently in a state of moral, educational, and financial weaknesses. What the nation needs is the proper circulation of resources, and compassionate nationhood shall begin to rise again. Economic diversification is the process of shifting an economy away from a single income source toward multiple sources from a great range of sectors and markets. Traditionally, it has been applied as a strategy to encourage positive economic growth and development. During gestation, the service closes its gates to keep the developing embryo in place, but it is required to open during parturition. The African giant rat has a special double cervical opening to accommodate more fertilization and also aid easy bathing process. The giant of Africa to diversify from being an oil-based economy by opening more gates of possibilities for both fertilizations of ideas and production of national profit. Is it not high time the giant of Africa considered African giant rats for economic diversification? Conclusions. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, distinguished audience, I have shown detailed anatomical structures of the female African giant rat and how useful opinions on the structures of the organ can be utilized to advantage. I've been able to show that ovulation takes place at late proestrus or early estrus in female African giant rats, and therefore suggested that late proestrus or early estrus stage be targeted for breeding of the giant rats in captivity. Unlike the previously held opinion that African giant rat is a seasonal breeder, our results showed that the female giant rat can breed throughout the year. Therefore, seasoning may not be an handicap to successful breeding of the rat. It was also shown that African giant rat has economic potentials to meet economic diversification of the giants of Africa. Recommendations. The African giant rat, as it has been explained in this lecture, is a treasure to behold and appreciated. Domestication and multiplication of these important animal resources is hereby advocated to complement the ongoing efforts in grass cutter domestication. The university needs to blaze the trail by encouraging scientists from wildlife management, zoology, animal science, and veterinary medicine to revive the work on domestication and propagation of African giant rats. This will go a long way to diversify the protein sources on the table, conserve the wild stocks, and improve the revenue base of the micro livestock farming communities. It is high time the giant of Africa tapped into the economic potentials of the African giant rats. Great food habit. Thank you very much. All praises and adorations are due to Almighty Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, the eternal, the most sacred, the embodiment of peace, the infuser of faith, the preserver of safety, the mighty, the omnipotent, the dominant, the creator, and the self-subsisting. To him belong all the beautiful names. I thank Almighty Allah for preserving my life and for making the presentation of this 87th inaugural lecture feasible. I'm indeed grateful to my parents, late Alhaji Koyuum Akinloye and Alhaja Mariam Akinloye, for giving all my siblings and I exceptionally good and sound Islamic upbringings. May Almighty Allah grant my father Al-Jannah Firdaus and continue to grant my mother long, healthy life. My special thanks go to our royal father, the Akiri of Ikire Kingdom, His Royal Majesty, Oba Olatunde Fabi, Nambeloye III, who passionately wished to be here today, but due to tight schedule, had to send strong delegation of Ikire in council, powerfully led by High Chief Banji Ojeleye. The Baraniwe of Ikire Kingdom to attend this inaugural lecture. Kade pẹ́ lórí bàbá wa o, kílẹ̀kẹ̀ pẹ́ lọ́rùn, Ìgbà ọdún kan ni o. I'm also grateful to the entire Palata family for your love and affection. May sounds of joy and happiness never cease in Palata family and the entire Nkiri Kingdom. I hope my uncles, late Mr. John Folorunso and late Mr. Zacchaeus Folorunso Akinloye, and Alhaji Remi Oyefiade, as well as my elder brothers, Brother Tunde Akinloye and Brother Laiton Oyetoro, heartfelt gratitude for jointly seeing me through my education from modern school, secondary school, and to the university. May Almighty God be meeting you at your points of need. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, distinguished audience, I dedicate this inaugural lecture to the loving memory of late Professor Bankole Olushijioke. He was my supervisor, my mentor, and my confidant, who eventually turned to be my big brother. Late Professor Oke painstakingly initiated me into this field of reproductive and endocrine biology. His thoroughness, openness, and active participation throughout my studies at the University of Ibadan paved way for me to reach the heights of my academic career within record time. I owe Professor Bankole Olushijioke a profound and deep-seated gratitude for the pivotal roles he played in my life. How I wish you were here seated. You would have served as a source of additional encouragement for me, and I would have been the happiest man on earth. Excuse me, please. But all is not lost for me, as I have his beautiful, humble, and ever-caring wife, Professor Gbemisola Oke, here seated today. Madam is a professor of periodontology and community dentistry, a former dean, faculty of dentistry, and a former DVC academic at the University of Ibadan. Madam, your presence here today has really made my day. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you so much. May the soul of our loving Father continue to rest in perfect peace. Thank you. My sincere and heartfelt gratitude goes to the founding father of COLVET, FUNAB, Professor Ebenezer Babatunde Kehinde. Professor Ebenezer Babatunde Kehinde brought me to FUNAB as one of the pioneer staff of COLVET. We established the Department of Veterinary Anatomy in 2002. Apart from being my excellent ruminant teacher at the University of Ibadan, I also acquired all my administrative experience under his tutelage. Professor Oteshile is an embodiment of knowledge, humility personified, and a father indeed. I shall never forget how he paid part of my PhD school fees as a source of encouragement when he saw that I was not making desirable progress on my program. May Almighty God continue to spare your life for us and grant you sound health to enjoy the fruit of your labor. My deep-seated appreciation also goes to Mama COLVET, as she's fondly called. The beautiful and the wow of COLVET, the former Dean COLVET and the former DVC academic FUNAB, Professor Morenike Atinuke. Madam worked assiduously to secure Senate approval for the establishment of COLVET when none of us in COLVET today was around. Professor Dikweolu was the foot soldier that sourced for personnel and space for the smooth takeoff of the college. Her Midas touch has made COLVET to blossom. We truly owe her a lot of gratitude for providing a space for all of us in COLVET to develop. She ensured the birth of COLVET, Mama COLVET indeed. May your Midas touch never wane. My thanks also go to my one and only friend, my bosom friend, Professor Adebayo Koyuum Akinloye. We assumed duty the same day in FUNAB. His SP number is 993, while mine is 994. Both of us left the services of the University of Ibadan for FUNAB, and we have been very intimate ever since. While Professor Mrs. Oke was while Professor Mrs. Dikweolu was instrumental to the establishment of COLVET, and Professor Oteshile was the founder. Professor Shodibare, through his hard work and doggedness, nurtured veterinary teaching hospital to maturity. His dedication and selfless service to uplift VTH is second to none and highly commendable. I wish you greater heights in all your future endeavors. My sincere gratitude also goes to my Dean, Professor Olushola Lawrence Ajayi, the Deputy Dean, Professor Jojo Awoyomi, and all heads of departments and the entire COLVET family for providing an enabling environment for us to develop as a family. When I became the Dean COLVET in 2017, only 5 of us were professors. Professor Oteshile, Professor Dikweolu, Professor Yekule, Professor Talabi, and myself. As at the time I finished my tenure as Dean on July 31st, 2023, we had 20 professors in the college. We also secured full NUC and VCN accreditation, and COLVET has ever been waxing stronger yearly. All this monumental progress would not have been possible if not for the support and cooperation of both academic and non-teaching staff. At this juncture, I also want to specifically thank all the non-teaching staff who supported me in my various appointments in the university. Former college officers, former college accountants, former college librarians, especially our own current university librarian. Dr. Wolabi, as well as my former secretaries, former executive officers, former administrative officers, and former drivers I also want to acknowledge former Secretary to CODAT, Mr. Agbotoba, and the current Secretary CODAT, Dr. Abdulsabur Sawa, who was also one of my former college officers. May the bond of God's love that binds us together continue to wax stronger and stronger. My department has always been another home for me. It is such a wonderful place with wonderful people. Therefore, I'm thankful to my HOD, Professor Matthew Ayokunle Olude, Professor Aderele Olalekan Adebayo, Professor Dr. Oluwafemi Ahmed Mustafa, Dr. Michael Okondeji, and Dr. Francis Olaolorun, as well as our Chief Technologist, Mr. Emmanuel Olurotimi Anishe, the Secretary, Mrs. Adeosun, Mr. Emmanuel Adeboye, and Mr. Tolu Alagbe. To everyone in the department, I say a big thank you for the wonderful working relationship. My appreciation also goes to the Director of VTH, Professor Ernest Olufemi Ojo, and the entire staff of VTH. I enjoyed tremendous support from all VTH staff when I was the Director of VTH in year 2016. Thank you so much for keeping the flag of quality clinical services flying. My special thanks and heartfelt gratitude goes to the FUNAB management under the able leadership of the 7th substantive Vice-Chancellor, Professor Olushola Babatunde Kehinde, for giving me tremendous support when I was the Dean COLVET and Chairman CODAT. COLVET is truly blessed under Professor Kehinde's administration. I'm also thankful to the past Vice-Chancellor, Professor Nuruddin Adedepe, who as the pioneer Vice-Chancellor laid the solid foundation in the development of FUNAB, especially his foresight in the establishment of COLVET in FUNAB. Professor Okoje, the succeeding Vice-Chancellor, initiated the process of its establishment, while late Professor Israel Folorunsho made it a reality through his support and encouragement. I also appreciate Professor Adamson's support to COLVET at the time of need. Professor Oluwafemi Balogun's tenure as the Vice-Chancellor transformed COLVET infrastructurally and consolidated the efforts of the past Vice-Chancellor. Professor Olushola Bamidele Oyewole's tenure further concretized previous Vice-Chancellor's work on COLVET, while we enjoyed unalloyed support under the administration of Professor Ololade Aduduro Edikwo-Omeyin. The 6th substantive Vice-Chancellor, Professor Felix Kolawole Salako's tenure, took COLVET to the envious height of being ranked as one of the best in Africa. My sincere thanks also go to all my teachers, friends, and colleagues at the University of Ibadan, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, and the Department of Veterinary Anatomy, UI, for sparing time to attend this inaugural lecture. As it is practically impossible to mention everyone's name, kindly permit me to use the first female dean of the faculty, Professor Funke Oladevis, and the HOD, Department of Veterinary Anatomy, Dr. Aino, as the point of contact to express my gratitude to all the beautiful people of the faculty. You are much appreciated indeed. My heartfelt thanks also go to my research collaborators in the University of Pretoria, South Africa, Professor J.T. Sole, Mary Catherine Madekurozwa, and H.B. Brodewald, as well as at the Nanchang Medical University Sichuan Key Laboratory of Medical Imaging, China, Professor Zhang, Professor Ziel, Professor Ming, Professor Paul, and Professor Zhu. My thanks and appreciation also goes to the Chief Imam of FUNAB Muslim community, Professor Idris Ayinde, the Amir, Professor Latif Swani, and the entire Muslim Ummah for keeping Islamic tenets sacred and for providing conducive environment on campus for our spiritual development. May Almighty Allah continue to elevate all of us in our various endeavors. My special thanks Also go to the Publication Committee, Ceremonial Committee, Department of Public Relations, and the entire members of the COLVET Inaugural Lecture Committee for perfecting the presentation of this inaugural lecture. May Almighty God perfect everything that is yours. I'm also full of gratitude to my in-laws, the Enato family, especially Mr. and Mrs. Mustafa Sadli, Dr. Farad and family, and everyone for their love, affections, and support always. May our love for one another continue to wax stronger. My family is the backbone of my success. A wise man once said, having somewhere to go is home. Having someone to love is family. And having both is a blessing. I am immensely thankful to my lovely children and my sweetheart, my beautiful wife, for making our home conducive for me to achieve this feat. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, distinguished and respectable audience, I thank you most sincerely for your patience and attention. God bless.
On behalf of the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Babatunde Kehinde, and the entire staff and students of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, I'm honored to present to you this award of honor as the 87th Inaugural Lecturer of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. In addition, these are products of the Federal University of Agriculture. I can guess that there is no roasted rat here. Thank you very much. The greatest of the greatest of the greatest of the greatest Funabite. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the inaugural lecture. And as is tradition of this university, I would want, on behalf of the Vice-Chancellor, to appreciate His Royal Majesty, Oba Olatunde Falabi Lambeloye III, the Akire of Ikire Kingdom, who is represented here today by a team of high chiefs of Ikire, Chief Banji Ojeleye, Chief Mustafa Ojo, Chief Olubowale Ahmed, Chief Soji Akinwale, Chief Dimeji Olawuyi, Chief Isiaka Yusuf, Chief Sunday Adeniji, Chief Oyediton Seriki, Chief Lukman Oyedeji, Chief Isiaka Ajagbe, and Prince Mutiu Adeshino. Our love and regards to Kabiesi. Thank you very much. We also appreciate, we have former Vice-Chancellors here, the former Vice-Chancellor, Glorious Vision University, Professor Idowu, and the former Vice-Chancellor, Landmark University and Philomath University, Professor T.M.A. Olayonju. We also appreciate the presence of General Mohammed Abdul Salam, retired. Thank you very much, sir. Of course, we would do a disservice if we do not recognize, especially the wife of late Professor Bankole Oke, who is here, and a former Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academic of the University of Ibadan. We thank you very much, ma'am, for coming. And of course, the father and mother of veterinary medicine at the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Professor Teshile, looking ever younger, and Professor Mrs. Dikweolu, our dear auntie. It is also my special pleasure to recognize my uncle and a dear friend of the entire COLVET family, former Dean of Kulam Road, Professor Adewale Dikweolu. We thank you so much for finding time to join us in this inaugural lecture. And on behalf of the Vice-Chancellor, we have come to the end of this ceremony. Announcements?
Please, a better round of applause for the Vice-Chancellor. And another one to our 87th inaugural lecturer, Professor Akinloye. With the permission of the Vice-Chancellor, I want to just re-echo one of the proverbs of the African giant rat. Ọ̀rọ̀ tí òkété bá bálẹ̀ sọ nílẹ̀ ń gbọ́. Thank you very much, sir. I want to believe, please, the COLVET family, you are highly appreciated. Please, a round of applause for the COLVET family. Thank you very much. At least there's a major takeaway here. We've all learned something about Okete, the African giant rat. So we are gradually drawing the curtain for this lecture. So let me quickly take the announcement. The procession, we exit the hall through the center aisle, while the guests of the inaugural lecturer, we take the exit B by my left-hand side. The staff, exit A by my right-hand side. Students should remain in the hall. So please, at this point, may we rise for FUNAB anthem.
School of Family Science.
national prayer. Please let's remain standing while the academic procession exits the hall. We want to appreciate every one of us for making time out to be here and to listen to this beautiful lecture titled The Magnum Opus of Reproductive Anatomy, the African Giant Rat and the Giants of Africa. Please, all the staff should remain in the hall. All the staff should be in the hall after the exit of the procession. Once again, we appreciate everyone for being here. Our COLVET family, we appreciate you. Our eminent guests, we appreciate you. His Royal Highness, we appreciate you. Friends and families of the inaugural lecturer, we appreciate you. Students of the college, we appreciate you. Student union body, we appreciate you. We say thank you for making it to the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. I want to believe you enjoyed the lecture. Please, once again, the guests of the lecturer, exit B by my left-hand side. Exit B by my left-hand side. Staff should remain in the hall. Students also.